I think it was T-Pain on the A-Team back in the day who had an iconic catchphrase, "I pity the Jew." And I do too. I mean, honestly, in the last 100 years, has there ever been a worse time to be Jew? Okay, obviously there has. But in terms of the sentiment, the vibes of it all, has there? Because yes, anti-Semitism existed before, but when it comes to adding up the general average Joe's opinion on Jewish people these days, it's pretty negative. And whether or not that's right or not, all I will say is I do lament all the people who have no affiliation with Israel or don't approve of what they're doing, anti-Zionist or not, whatever. They're catching heat regardless all the same. And all of that stems back from the actions, I think, of one man. And whether or not he knew, Netanyahu. What did he know, okay? Was he aware going into this? I don't know. We're gonna find out today. Now that it's been 2 years on, I do want to see, as the war is winding down, whether or not there's anyone to blame for this. Because from the initial hours, I immediately smelled conspiracy. And if you knew anything about Israel or their intelligence operations, I think you know exactly what I mean. So did he know? And no, for the record, I'd never off myself.
Let me take you down, 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 down.
Now, just to get some stuff out of the way here, first off, extremely sensitive, touchy subject with a lot of people, I know. And honestly, a lot of you I do feel bad for because you're really in this shit. Most of you aren't, to be clear. Most of you are not. But some of you really are, and I do feel bad. I'm not trying to cheapen or invalidate those feelings. But that being said, though, if you're looking for some background on the entire subject here, go elsewhere, okay? I'm assuming if you don't know about the subject, you're not clicking on this video anyway. I'm not going to repeat a bunch of shit you already know. Especially if you're expecting me to plant some moral flag in the ground and say, this is the correct opinion. This is the right side. This is the good take. No, I'm not going to do that either. There's an infinite amount of videos out there that can do that for you already, regardless of which side you're on. And so if you're looking for that, fuck off, find another video. And I don't want to see any of you trying to lecture me to get educated on this topic, okay? Buddy doesn't even know about the Balfour Declaration, I bet, for fuck's sakes. Dreyfus Affair, don't know dick all about her, I bet. Jesus. Anyway, October 7th, 2023, 1,400 dead, equivalent to a dozen 9/11s. And I'm not trying to say this to build sympathy, I'm just trying to explain the significance of this event, because it's truly monumental. Let's see what America did over one 9/11. Now, times that by 12. The issue with Israel is that they're just known for having amazing intelligence. And they've also been through something exactly like this to a T 50 years before ago on the dot, the Yom Kippur War. No one ever thought that could happen again, because that was the last time Israel was caught with their pants down. That's part of the reason why they have such good intelligence, because they thought never again. And just like it went down this time, 50 years ago, 1973, during a Jewish holiday, same as before, there was this surprise attack, and it almost cost Israel their country. There's been whole careers made off just discussing what went down and how they fucked up. So many books, university publications, theses, all this shit, all on that one subject of how they got caught with their pants down. And so to see it be repeated on a way worse level and shit, like, it's just, this is one for the history books. And they're gonna be going over this for years to come. First thought was, well, is this a 9/11 type fuck up? You see, 9/11, just like Israel, as you'll come to find, they were aware, okay, there's a general vague threat. Osama bin Laden plans to attack America. That's not actionable. What are you supposed to do with this information? It's like, oh, there's a serial killer on the loose. Okay, that sucks. I mean, good to know. Like, that's all you can really do, right? And that was how 9/11 was communicated. Osama bin Laden plans to attack America vaguely, and that's not actionable, so nothing was done. There was no action taken, and the next thing you know, the Twin Towers went down. Like, that's just how that fuck up happened. So that was one option for how Israel shat the bed on this one. Other people were like, well, what if Hamas had really good OPSEC? No, they didn't. Especially, no, even considering what happened a year into this conflict with the whole pager scenario, where suddenly everyone woke up one day and had their leg blown off or some shit in a supermarket. An insane, like, movie tier, fiction, not real type of spy maneuver. Extremely impressive. Nothing else, just looking at it from a cold, how the fuck did they pull this off kind of way? Like, goddamn. You know, it's just really hard to believe, even before we know what we know now, that Hamas somehow had good enough OPSEC to never have this shit leak, right? That's not a serious belief. Were they distracted by internal politics and conflicts? Now, this is a good one, and as you'll come to see, it's a bit of an important point too. You see, as I'll get into, Netanyahu, he had this big legal thing looming over him that was coming due, and to try and circumvent it, he was trying to overthrow the judiciary and basically just cuck the Supreme Court. It was and still is a big deal. Another good theory, this one I think holds a lot of weight, is were they too over-reliant on inadequate technology? And now that may come as a shock to some of you, because Israel is is one of the most developed and advanced militaries and intelligence operations on Earth. It just is. The tech they have is unparalleled. But that being said, maybe a lot of the rep and a lot of shit is oversold on that matter, okay? We're in hell is a statement of fact, but also a good YouTube channel who is doing a lot of good shit on this current subject. So if you want to go check them out, I'd highly recommend it. That being said, though, I will just end off this section by stating that the Allied Supreme Commander, X1 of NATO, who liaised with Israel all the time, he was saying it was a shocking intelligence failure. And I mean, honestly, given the depth of resources dedicated to monitoring Palestinians, he's goddamn right. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Regardless, time will tell what really went down. There will be months-long investigations to piece together what the IDF and Mossad knew and when they knew it. Everything really hinges on Netanyahu and what the fuck was going on with his whole legal cases and what he knew and when. Huh. Do you think these are jeans? Anyway, Netanyahu's corruption case is pivotal to this whole story. It explains everything in my mind. Just to give you some background, Netanyahu is Israel's longest-serving prime minister, and as of 2020, he was getting sued. Case 1000. Fraud and breach of trust. Netanyahu and his wife Sarah were accused of accepting nearly $300K, including expensive cigars, champagne, jewelry, from Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan and Australian billionaire James Packer between 2007 and 2016, and in return, it was alleged that Netanyahu pressured the finance minister to extend tax exemptions for returning Israeli expatriates, lobbied the U.S. government to help Milchan renew his American visa, and assisted with business matters, including a merger deal. Case 2000, fraud and breach of trust yet again. Netanyahu allegedly negotiated a deal with Arnon Moses, a publisher of the Israeli newspaper. Is that a second different Arnon? It is. To receive favorable media coverage in exchange for legislation that would weaken a rival newspaper. While the agreement was never completed, recorded conversations document these discussions. And then case 4000, bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. This was the big deal one. Prosecutors allege Netanyahu, under his time as the communications minister between 2014 and 2017, granted regulatory favors worth approximately 1.8 billion shekels, or about $500 million, to Bezek Telecom Israel and its controlling shareholder. In return, Netanyahu allegedly received positive media coverage for himself and his wife Sarah, and also evidence includes testimonies, physical evidence, and audio tapes directly linking Netanyahu to these alleged crimes. So I'm not going to go in depth any further on that. That's just a Wikipedia tier summary of it. The point isn't the crimes. The point is that he's pretty dead to rights on this shit. It's not just serious, but it's pretty fucking open and shut case. This is what's hanging over his head. It's a sort of Damocles, and he damn well knows it too. He is damned if he doesn't do something about it. And you see, the reason all this matters is simple. It's obvious. It's because he had a lot of pending court cases. There was a shit ton of pressure. How do you solve that? Well, one way is to become prime minister, because as it stood, he was screwed. The evidence was damning, remember. And remember, they also sent their previous serving prime minister to jail for one of the charges he has, and he has many. And so he knew it's either become prime minister or go to prison. No in between. And so with that in mind, COVID hit, and that was able to delay it for a little bit. He was able to get back the prime ministership. With that, he was able to do things like, say, fire the attorney general in charge of prosecuting him for one. He was able to block and prevent different committees from forming to investigate all of his crimes and other alleged issues. And just all of this shit was working out really well for him. That plus COVID too. Because between that and COVID delaying all of these different trials and things, he was really getting a lot of time back. He was running out the clock, but that clock was still ticking. And if it weren't for Gaza kicking off, he would have been kicked out of power long ago, because his coalition was crap. They were a fractious bunch looking for a reason to get going. If you look at the Israeli political history, they were going through a big crisis at the time beforehand, just because of how many different governments would come and go, rise and fall, because none of them could get their shit together. A problem that's really global, but especially so in Israel. I mean, you know how Jewish people are with the old disagreements. You got two in a room, you got four opinions or whatever the fuck, right? Like, it's a nightmare. I can only imagine trying to form a government like that. And so with all that in mind, he got in power because that was his incentive to keep out of prison. And while in power, to be able to keep out of prison, he would try and stymie any sort of investigation or panel that was trying to get him in jail. And with all that in mind, people were losing their minds. He was trying to overrule the Supreme Court, piss off all of the powers that be, because he was purely just out for himself, very clearly. His incentives were right there the whole time. He just wanted to change the laws and forestall any sort of action against him. And through that, his polling numbers were piss poor. Like Starmer maybe is the only other leader I can think of in power right now that could even touch his opposition through society. Like society was saying, I think 80% were like, get the fuck out of office. And again, rightfully so. Really, it's gonna rain right now? God fucking damn it. Weather. What was I saying? Just to get on to the main meat of the story now, let's go over whether or not Nettie knew. In the years leading up, Qatar was sending money, roughly 30 mil a month, to Hamas, and to get there, it had to go through Netanyahu. And it was very clear and apparent that money was being diverted to fund Hamas. Now, Netanyahu knew, that's confirmed, and he did say, oh, look, that's okay though. It's always been his policy and the policy of his party, Likud, that you must fund Hamas, because to fund Hamas is to prevent a Palestinian state, especially because the PLO are in direct conflict with Hamas, because one's trying to rule, the other is too. One's got the West Bank, the other's got Gaza, and together they're disunified, which prevents a Palestinian state from starting. That's the ploy. And so Hamas would be funded through Qatar on Netanyahu's approval because that served their geopolitical interests. In spite of this, it was very clear Hamas was investing in ways to kill more Israelis. Netanyahu didn't care. What should have been cause for concern for Netanyahu, though, was when Jericho Wall came out. Jericho Wall was a plan by Hamas to essentially go into Israel and do what they did on October 7th. What you saw on October 7th was the Jericho Wall plan. Now, the Jericho Wall plan was known well in advance to Israeli military intelligence. They were fully in the know on it. Now, how did they know? Doesn't matter. The fact is, they did know. Israeli intelligence just kept warning that domestic polarization was being read as a weakness. As I said, all of Netanyahu's ploys to be able to keep himself in power by fucking over the judiciary branch, that was very clearly telegraphing to the enemy they're weak. And there's a big theory that Jewish Israel is an artificial colonial state, right? That's a big thing in the Middle East and a lot of academia too. They're convinced that it's an artificial society, and for that reason, it's weak. When they have a moment of weakness, it'll all come crumbling down any day now, because again, it's an artificial state in their mind. And even though that hasn't been the case up until now, mostly because of the whole opposition their neighbors are doing to them, regardless of how it came to be, product or otherwise, of the environment, up until this moment, they were wrong. But in this moment, they were right. Convinced this was the case the whole time, they've just been waiting for the day to see Israel divided. And Israeli intelligence knew this. And so when they told Netanyahu, hey, what you're doing right now is basically telegraphing, please attack us, he, again, didn't give a shit. Oh, you want to know what else no one ever seems to be speaking on is one thing I remember back in the day. There was a massive spike in short sales of Israeli ETF shares on American exchanges 5 days before October 7th. If you look at the month leading up, there was an increasing volume spike, but it really spiked with two main trades that occurred for 250,000 shares sold short. And if you do the math on the average daily volume of shares sold short, it's something like 2K shares sold short on the Israeli ETF. How many shares were sold short on the spike? It's 250K. That's over 100x. And options spiked. Like, for example, one contract, October 13th was when it expired, right? 8x profit. No other options of a similar sort with different expiration dates had the same shit go on. That's weird. That's not normal. But at the time, I wrote it off for a few reasons. One, turned out to be $10 million in profit. Who the fuck is gonna make such an audacious, doxable bet on something so clear? The juice ain't worth the squeeze. Again, like, it was very murky. There's a lot of explanations you could use to write this off. I don't know who's behind it, whether it's Hamas, Qatar more likely. Although I will say, after doing some deep research on Wall Street Bets, I did come across one user who appears to be the one who made those two trades. They had the username Netanyahu. I don't know who that could be. Something was up. I don't know who. I don't know what the fuck. Someone knew. And this is what makes it so hard for me to believe that Hamas somehow had great OPSEC, and that's why no one knew. First off, they damn well knew. 2 years before October 7th, Israel had the plan. In full. Fully accurate, the plan. It even had the goddamn paragliders, non-credible defense shit. That type of shit was real. And honestly, maybe I'd write it off too. Regardless, they were aware. And they kept telling everyone, this is real. Netanyahu knew. In fact, Netanyahu's main opposition leader, they both had the same security security briefing at the same time from Israeli intelligence saying exactly such. And, speaking of which, there was so many other occurrences where Netanyahu was cornered and specifically recorded, confirmed, was informed of this exact shit going down. For example, Shin Bet showed up to Netanyahu one day and they're like, hey, all those Qatari payments, they are definitely being appropriated by Hamas. And again, he just continued to not care. He was fully well aware. Egypt warned him too. Egypt warned him many times. So many times. Egyptian intelligence came in at one point and directly warned Netanyahu 10 days before the attack. Something unusual, a terrible operation, was about to take place. And then in response, Netanyahu was so chill about it. Mind you, again, I do know Egypt is not exactly the best friend with Israel, although they should be after we bribe them $1 billion+ a year to be so. No, but I'm just saying though, I could see a world where maybe they're fudging shit too, sure. But alternatively, again, no one gave a shit. In July 2023, Netanyahu was hospitalized with a pacemaker. Again, Shin Bet's chief guy came and warned him. Today, I give you a warning of war. How ominous. Didn't give a shit. Probably ticked him off more so than anything involved in his ticker. And then fucking the Israeli military intelligence chief attempted to warn Netanyahu too, but he refused to even fucking meet with the dude. Unit 8202 came about and warned senior officials Hamas was conducting training exercises similar to the Jericho Wall plan. Again, nothing was done. But then the peak of it all right, September 2023. All throughout the summer, Hamas has been posting training exercise videos. I think there was 4 different ops total. They built replicas of where they were planning to attack. Replicas of places listed in the Jericho Wall docs, practicing on executing that plan. Again, according to the doc Israel had and was fully well aware of. And they were posting the videos of this shit on social media. They were telegraphing it on Telegram openly. Yo, we're going to be doing this shit. Here's videos of us training on taking hostages in a 1-to-1 remake of the facilities we're gonna do this at. Literally visible from the border. Fuck, one of those training facilities was 600 meters away from the border or some shit. It was literally within eyesight. And they were getting warned left, right, and center from all the different spotters running the border, as is their job. They have an entire information network designed to preempt this shit. And the information network was working, arguably. Everyone was saying, oh my god, all the signs are here. This is happening. Nothing occurred though. It seems like everyone was asleep at the wheel, strangely. Now, October 6th, just before, Hamas activated Israeli SIM cards used by military leaders. The thing is, Israel was fully well aware of this. They saw this shit pop up on their network, and they knew what that meant. And Israel identified 5 warning signs, but Gaza division commander didn't place division on high alert. Why was that? Now, you see, at 6:29 a.m., October 7th, Major General Avi Gil called Netanyahu, warning that hundreds of Hamas fighters appeared ready to cross Gaza border. 6:40 a.m., Netanyahu finally ordered situational assessments during Gil's second call. After October 7th, there's a bunch of other shit that just reeks of a cover-up. For example, they halted all war cabinet meeting recordings, and that was ordered by Netanyahu's office. Strange. Surveillance footage from Gaza's border mysteriously disappeared. October 7th onwards, war forced courts to postpone corruption trial hearings for over 14 months. February 2025, Netanyahu successfully requested reduced testimony days, citing challenging security circumstances. March 2025, when Israel broke the ceasefire, corruption trial proceedings were postponed again. A Shin Bet investigations concluded that Qatar's funding policy was the key failure precipitating October 7th. Generals, as one of the big ones especially, stepped down, very shameful and remorseful, saying, "The disaster occurred on my watch and I bear responsibility." And he turned over his command during all this shit with Netanyahu present. He turned and very pointedly said, "It's not right that only the Israeli Defense Forces investigate an event like this. Establishing a state commission of inquiry is necessary and essential." And Netanyahu hasn't agreed, because every time there's one that tries to form, it seems he squashes that shit in the cradle as soon as possible. Now, there's been a lot of document tampering accusations flying left, right, and center here. Netanyahu's chief of staff was investigated for allegedly altering October 7th phone call timestamps. That whole 629 incident occurred, and then at 640 is when the order was given to get shit going, right? But he altered the timestamp on shit to make it look like it wasn't Netty doing shit. It was the other guys. It was actually the Israeli army. And this is where shit starts to get weird. It really seems like he's truly out for himself. Fuck everyone else involved in this. And I don't know why no one else is saying fuck you too then, bud. It's very bizarre to me. He's openly manipulating records and suppressing shit, claiming shit got lost in the shuffle somehow very conveniently. And so, as with everything involving Israel-Palestine, there's a million more things I could go on and on about. Many things I'm leaving out, but I think it's best at 6 a.m. to leave it here. I need to sleep. Does Israel have the death penalty? Wow, the state's only carried out capital punishment against 2 people in its entire existence thus far, as Israel's outlawed all forms of capital punishment except for the following 4 reasons. We got treason, genocide, crimes against humanity, and crimes committed against the Jewish people during wartime. I mean, honestly, if you want to count crimes committed against the Jewish people that led to wartime, arguably some may say he's got all 4. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if Benjamin Netanyahu did know about October 7th ahead of time and did nothing anyway, either for political gain or just because he wanted to avoid some jail time, either way, the people are going to want his head for that, and they'll probably get it. And I mean, honestly, if I were Israeli and it was proven in court to be the case, I'd want him hanged too. Legally, of course, and not extrajudicially. No, I'd be in that case advocating publicly for Benjamin Netanyahu to die in a chill, legal way, okay? I mean, of course, it's all predicated upon it being true and predicated upon it being proven in court to be the case. Of course, if it's not the case and that's not true and it's not proven in court, then of course, nothing bad would happen to him because in that case, he did nothing, right? It's completely fine. Pay no mind to what I just said. But of course, if it is proven to be such and he did know, then in that case, he would be put to death, executed for either treason, crimes against the Jewish people during wartime, the other 2, maybe all 4. Who's to say? Either way, he'd have to die. It's the law. And if I'm really being candid here, if he did do it and did know, I really think they should kill him. But hey, what do you think, huh? Did Nettie know? Yes, no, walls of text below. And please, become a channel member. I think I need to buy more guns, because... I think we do.